I was at the College of St. Scholastica, I did not know what I wanted to major in. And so the one thing I knew I was not going to major in was psychology. Well, I ended up majoring in psychology. And part of that was because I kind of thought about what I wanted to do as my end goal. What did I want to actually do? I knew I wanted to work with kind of, at that time, at-risk youth. And so the best path to get me there was going to be an undergrad in psychology. And so therefore I had to switch my mindset, and it ended up to be the best decision. I just totally embraced the major, and it was spot on for me for what my career goals were. So as a psych major, we had to do a capstone. And so my capstone was the DAP, which is like an internship, a full semester internship. So I did my high impact practice or internship at a day treatment facility here in Duluth. And so in that experience, I was able to work with youth. So basically from ages, I think the youngest was maybe junior high through high school, students who had diagnoses that were working on life skills. And so I was able to see the treatment options for the students, but also got to kind of witness different kind of careers within that setting. So whether it was the social worker or the psychiatrist, some of just the staff that helped kind of with the fun activities, so art therapy, recreational therapy, things that were really needed for that holistic kind of support for those students that were in that day treatment facility. So I did that as my high impact practice or my capstone experience. But in addition, I did 2 other internships that I just wanted to really have that real world experience. And so I added those into my curriculum just so that I had a little bit wider net of experience. So when I went out and looked for jobs, I had lots more experiences on my resume. So as I mentioned, I was looking to work with at-risk youth. And so my next step after my undergrad was to get a master's degree in counseling. So I went to the University of Wisconsin-Superior, got that master's in counseling, and I chose community counseling because I wanted to be actually in settings where I could do like therapy or other kind of interventions. So that was my plan. I was going to go work with youth in some kind of facility or other treatment centers and work kind of doing mental health counseling. And so when I was in graduate school, I needed to get a job. And so there was a part-time position opened in our TRIO Upward Bound Math Science program here at the College of St. Scholastica. So I thought, well, that would be a great match. It was a little bit different of a population, but it still worked with youth, and it still was kind of in the lane of what I wanted to do. So I looked at that as kind of a part-time job that I was going to have while I pursued my master's. Well, I did do that, and then eventually that job became full-time. And then a position opened at Scholastica in TRIO Student Support Services, which worked with college students. And at that time, the program was offering mental health services. And so I was able to use my degree, my master's degree in counseling in that job. And so it was a perfect fit. You know, I'm a first generation college student, so I didn't know like what higher education jobs were. I didn't know what jobs I could do in a college. And so for me, it was kind of like, I always say like the career path chose me versus me choosing it. So basically I then worked in TRIO Student Support Services doing lots of different kind of supports, academic support, financial support, academic support, and then the personal counseling piece. Eventually the TRIO SSS no longer did the mental health kind of very clinical work, that we transitioned out of that work, but I still loved all the other pieces of the job. And so my career journey is I started to really embrace those aspects of how I support students, and I really just fell in love with working in higher ed. I loved the mission, I loved what I did. And so eventually I became a director of the TRIO Student Support Services program and really got a taste of what it's like to maybe have a little bit more role about kind of visioning and mission and being responsible for program outcomes. And I really liked that too. And so in each kind of different step, I learned more and more about higher education, more and more about what I think is like the real kind of biggest thing that we can offer to our people to be able to help them grow and advance in their worlds, and this is education. So to be a part of that is really huge. So basically then, as I got more involved in my director position, I became more familiar with other aspects of higher education. And then a position opened up here at the college, the Associate Vice President of Student Affairs, and I was very honored to be offered that position. And so now I'm taking another kind of leap in my career journey, learning a little bit more about how I can make some changes in our higher education system here at Scholastica to really just kind of support student success. And I always say, if I hadn't had that high impact practice or that internship or that DAP, they're all kind of using the same words back when I was, in my early 20s, I'm not sure I would be here where I am now, because that really taught me about kind of understanding people, understanding people's journey, understanding how students have to be sorted in multiple ways to be successful. So whether it's an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, or a 22-year-old, we need a lot of those different supports that I learned through that day treatment internship opportunity to really apply that now to what I do now. If I look back to me when I was in my early 20s, my college self, I would probably tell myself to think about career planning as a journey, and just to embrace kind of the journey. And so I say that because, as you heard my story, I didn't set out to work in higher education. I didn't know that I was going to end here. I didn't even know that this job existed. And so really I just had to embrace and trust the process, and really just say, like, sometimes you have to kind of weave in and out of career paths, kind of pick up what you enjoy about those, and those things that really kind of interest you, develop those, make the networks and, learn about that. And sometimes doors open for you, and take those doors, even if they're scary sometimes, but just trust that process and be open to new opportunities.